Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm your host, Alex Harriman, here with my co-host, Kelly Sarlo, and we are two of the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey, Kelly.
Hi, Alex.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm relieved because Spartan is over.
Come on.
And I remember thinking, two things here. We ran Spartan. It was treacherous, and I'm still cursing your name. And on another completely separate note, as you know, my partner and I just bought property, and it's farmland, which is very flat. And all I could think about during Spartan, during these awful carries that you have to do with sandbags and buckets and everything, was I am so grateful for the functional movement I will be doing on flat farmland and not up and down these goddamn hills.
I still can't picture you carrying a sandbag around your property being like, I love carrying this sandbag.
No one said I might love it, but I think there will be chicken feed over my shoulder where I will be yelling out their old lady chicken names, and that will be a little bit more homey.
Fair enough.
What do you have for us today?
Today we're going to talk about one of our guiding principles. Well, not necessarily one of our 5 guiding principles in the way that we typically call them, but one of the sayings, if you will, that we use with our clients, I would argue, on a daily basis. So what it is minimizing the damage. Give me your Webster dictionary version of what minimizing the damage is.
Yeah, it's to me, if I don't go with the Breaking 90 kind of standard, if I was to generalize minimizing the damage, it is making a conscientious, better decision than you used to before.
Totally.
And I can apply this to food, movement, relationships, the healthy decisions that we're making for our life, just habits and goals in general.
So if we think of that on a really simple scale, making a slightly better choice than I would have before. That's if you can just apply that to your health and fitness journey, you will win. Because if we look back, and you need to look at different things. So if we look from this Tuesday to next Tuesday, it's okay, so typically on Tuesdays I have tacos. This week I'm going to have 2 tacos instead of 3 tacos. That's one version of minimizing the damage. Now, all of a sudden a Tuesday ends up being Christmas, right? And so then we can't be like, oh man, I fell off the wagon because this Tuesday was way worse than last Tuesday. Now we need to be looking okay, how's this Christmas compared to last Christmas? How did I handle this Christmas compared to previous Christmas? How did I handle this family get together compared to previous family get-togethers? Because it's not always going to work on a calendar basis, but sometimes it's going to work on an event or a special occasions basis. So you can look at it from many different ways, but if we start to use this over time, how do I typically navigate this type of day or event? How did I navigate it this time? Great, I did a little bit better. Over time, your norm gets better and you push yourself to continue getting better and you kick ass.
You're a beautiful teacher. Just the way that I mean it, just the way that you break down concepts for people to manage, I think, and you make them so accessible. Because I think for a lot of people, they wouldn't have necessarily known with your Tuesday and then Christmas example. A lot of people want to be really rigid and structured, and we talk about this a lot, where people like rules in the beginning because it gives you guidelines, but then all of a sudden the rules don't fit with a Christmas on a Tuesday, right? And we start getting really hard on ourselves instead of knowing how to adjust mentally for what you just talked about, to say, okay, whoa, we're not comparing apples to oranges now. Now we've got to do Christmas to Christmas, not Christmas to average Tuesday. So I love what you did there for people. And I hope that they took pause and thought about, where have I compared apples to oranges before, been too hard on myself and missed the point?
Totally. Yeah, and it doesn't, like, your goal isn't always just minimize the damage, because sometimes you're going to be striving for more. What minimize the damage does is stops you from getting into the all or nothing mindset. It stops you from throwing in the towel and quitting when you really don't deserve to quit because you're still doing really well.
Oh, I like that too.
We've had a lot of our clients in the past come out of a particularly difficult event, weekend, week, Christmas, whatever it might be like, "Ah, I didn't do very well. Like I really gave in to my cravings and like had cake on Saturday night and had a couple extra drinks and I'm not really proud of it." And it's like, okay, hold on. Like, did you handle it better than you would have in the past? Oh yeah, way better. Like I had a super small portion of dinner. I drank lots of water. We got a walk in before dinner. Okay, you're winning. Right? Like if you can honestly say you navigated a situation better than you have in the past, then you're winning. Now, when we look at what we do with our clients, we typically have 80% of the days where we're trying to hit our nutritional goals, and 20% of the days where they're allowed to take what we call an O day, where they're allowed to go outside of their nutritional goals. Our only requirement during those 20% of days is that they can minimize the damage. And so we don't give complete freedom. Like, it's not like a big cheat day where eat everything you can because tomorrow we're right back on track. Instead, we give a little bit more freedom, I'd say, in 20%. Like when you look at a diet where people have a cheat day, typically it's like once every week or two, so it might only be 5 or 10% of the time. I would rather you have more wiggle room 20% of the time and not let those days get out of control, because it's easier to bounce back from that. It's more in line with your goals and it actually teaches you something instead of restrict and binge, restrict and binge. So with that, you don't have to be super super strict on an off day. You don't have to count everything and measure everything, but you have to be able to honestly say, did I minimize the damage? Did I handle this day a little better than I would have in the past? And if you can do that on your off days, you're gonna smoke this journey.
Mhm. Yeah, and just to kind of give an example as to what that might look like, because you just said you don't have to count, you don't have to measure and whatnot. So someone might sit here and go, well, how do I know if I did a better job? It might be that you kept up your water intake, right? A lot of us, when we kind of go off of our dietary lifestyle plan, we kind of say that all or nothing mindset. We focus on maybe diet drinks, or we don't drink anything at all, or we just have our two iced coffees like I used to do. And now it's like, well, I didn't count or measure, but I made sure I still had my 7 or 8 cups of water as a bare ass minimum, let's say. And that helped to minimize the damage. So there are other ways than just the plate itself, or the nutrition that you're putting into your body, where you can minimize the damage elsewhere.
I really like breaking down all of the things I'm doing that are making me successful at that time. And so if we look at nutrition and say, like, I'm drinking a lot of water, I'm eating a lot of vegetables, I'm eating a lot of fruits, I'm eating a lot of protein, I'm not over consuming sweets and treats, um, whatever it might, I'm meal prepping ahead of time, like all of these different things that are making you successful. And then when we go into a day like this, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna go outside of my normal goals and routines, but I want to minimize the damage today. That prevents you from falling into all or nothing. Because if you don't do it this way, it's really easy to be like, I wasn't planning on having pizza. I had a slice of pizza. This day's ruined. Let's throw everything aside. Now it's like, oh, I wasn't planning on having a slice of pizza. I had a slice of pizza, but I could probably still hit my protein goal. I could probably still hit my water goal. I could probably still hit my vegetable goal. The only thing I might go over a little bit on is like my total portions, and maybe I'll be a little bit under on, I don't know, maybe I'll be a little bit under on veggies. But if I can make all of those other things still hit, I've really done a great job of minimizing the damage. When we group them all together as one item, that's what allows us to get into the all or nothing and be like, I broke all of this. No, you didn't. You didn't. Right?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Because it also challenges people to understand that there are different contributing factors to your nutrition. And I think for a lot of people who may never have gone on a program or only one kind of program, think calories in versus calories out, and that's the only way. And that is actually all or nothing when you think about I did it or I didn't do it today, right? I followed the caloric intake or I didn't. Now, as Alex is breaking things down, yep, the caloric intake didn't work out today, one way or the other, but these four other goals, minor or sub goals, absolutely crush them. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, you're gonna feel a lot better after that too, because you didn't you never feel good after all or nothing when you say, oh screw it, I'll start fresh Monday. That's
Yeah,
never
yeah, I agree. And like what ends up happening is we see like this stop start situation where when, as anyone knows, if you're in motion, an object in motion stays in motion, right? When you stop, it's hard to get moving again. That's when people are like, oh, my motivation's low, or what we would say momentum isn't there. When you are focused on minimizing the damage while you're still enjoying a treat here and there, you've still got lots of momentum, as you're saying, and celebrating water, veggies, protein, fruit, still knocking them out of the park, right? Momentum is still there. You're not at a stop start situation.
the beauty of doing it this way with the minimize the damage way is that you've never actually fallen off track. And so then you don't actually have to get started again.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to say I'll start fresh on Monday because it's like, no, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
I'm still in it. I've veered off on my total calories today, but I've got all this other stuff to focus on. I'm still in it. I'm minimizing the damage. And then I just swerve back into my lane. I don't actually have to restart anything.
Yep. It's brilliant.
You can't you can't actually fuck this journey up if you use this mentality because the only way to lose is to give up. And if you just keep moving forward, it doesn't really matter if you take a couple extra turns or if you have to take another month to get to the finish line. And I want you guys to really really think about that because this can set you free.
Yeah.
If you're willing to adopt this minimize the damage mentality and understand that there isn't a start stop, this can completely set you free because that it's those all or nothing moments that almost always become the catalyst to somebody failing.
Mm.
When you throw in the towel and say screw it, I'll start fresh Monday, usually what happens is instead of just eating 500 extra calories, you eat 3,000 extra calories. Then when you eat 3,000 extra calories, you feel like trash the next day. So you don't work out and you're like, well, yesterday sucked. So let's just go out for breakfast this morning. And it's Sunday anyways. We'll start fresh Monday. So now all of a sudden you've got 2 days of extra calories. You've probably gained a pound of real weight. The scale is probably going to show you 5 pounds of water weight. You're super discouraged Monday morning and you're like, what's the point? And instead of starting fresh Monday like you planned, you don't start fresh for another 2 Mondays. So now you've got 2 weeks because of one evening where you decided to get into that all or nothing mindset. Whereas the second option is to minimize the damage, make a couple choices that are outside of your goals, but be proud of the fact that you didn't throw in the towel. And Monday morning, you might still gain 5 pounds of water weight, but you understand that you never actually went off track. So there's no possible way you gained 5 pounds. And you're right back in it. And 3 days later, the scale's right back where you were. And you felt motivated, you felt good, your energy was there, and you kept moving forward the entire time. Those are your two options.
Only one of them sounds good. So
And we know that. And if you're like if you're staring these two options down and you're looking at how I'm going to feel after both of them, both versions of you tomorrow morning are telling you to go the minimize the damage route. You just actually have to listen because the only way you're not going to is if you just put your blinders on and say screw it.
yeah, and I will, you know, advocate for a lot of people who have probably lived their entire life in all or nothing mindset, or have an internal dialogue happening with, the voices of parents, the voices of teachers, the voices of bosses who have also delivered all or nothing mindsets, right? This is something that we hear a lot about, or it's how people communicate with us. So when we sit here and say, okay, here's this concept of minimize the damage, it's really simple. It is. And it's kind of a full mindset shift that makes you challenge other belief systems if you are buying into the idea of the all or nothing versus the minimize the damage. So it does take time. It's not something you just hear, it clicks, and you're like, okay, I'm good to go. I'm going to be successful. There is a deconstructing that has to happen because you have to learn to celebrate those little steps that Alex talked about, right? You have to learn to break down, I'm doing good at nutrition, into proteins, fruits, vegetables, and water, right? Some people don't know what it all is made up of. So I hope people can be compassionate with themselves as they're figuring out how to adopt this new mentality, and to be able to just gently catch themselves when they go back into the all or nothing, and remind yourself that you can choose minimize the damage as a small step in new way of living.
Yeah, anytime we're trying to change, you have to create a level of discomfort, and you have to be willing to change your mindset and the day-to-day habits you're taking, right? So you like, when you're first starting out with this thought, there's option A, you try it, you trial and error the process and figure it out on your own. Option B is you hire a coach like Breaking 90, and you walk through a tried and true proven system to implement this stuff into your life. That's why people hire us. Like, I'm not gonna beat around the bush on this. That we aren't selling a magic bullet. We're selling hard work and helping you implement the things that are actually going to change your life. So neither one of those options is right or wrong for every person, but like, give it some serious thought.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
I'm trying to think of anything else that comes to mind with minimize the damage. So that's the big one for me, is like, you can use it in all walks of your journey and your goals. But if you're always just living in a minimize the damage mentality, like you're coasting, you're capable of more. Minimize the damage is really designed to prevent you from going into the all or nothing. Most of the time, you should be holding yourself to a higher standard.
Okay, I like that. I do. Yeah, the minimize the damage is for like the worst of the worst days, or the days that like you said, you don't want to track.
hmm And it'll work every day to some extent, but like, you are capable of more. You are, for sure. And if you're just living your whole life with hitting your bare ass minimums, like, it's not enough.
Yep, that's fair. It's not enough to expect progress. It is enough to expect potentially not making a regression. But at some point, you do need to challenge yourself or let someone challenge you.
Yeah. Yep. Um, I'm gonna leave it there. Um, Unless there's anything else that you want to throw in, I feel comfortable with what we've covered there. So, my closing tip for you guys today is to not just look at minimize the damage from a nutrition standpoint, but also to look at it from a movement standpoint, right? It's no different than not being able to fit in your fourth workout or your third workout for the week and saying screw it. This is a perfect opportunity to get out for a walk. It's no different from not being able to do a full workout, so you say screw it, to saying I can't do my full workout today, but I could do 20 minutes. So think of different ways you can apply minimize the damage, because it could be used in your work life, your home life, your health and fitness life, and it can really, really help you avoid those spirals and those things that are pushing you further and further away from every goal that's important to you.
I love that. And I will say, I know it can speak for both of us. We always look forward to the questions that come from these podcasts. that get people thinking. So if you are sitting there and you're like, I don't know how to apply this to an area of my life, I think I like the concept, but I don't know how to make it a practical implementation, reach out, have that conversation with us. That's exciting for us to have that conversation and to give you those little tweaks that are just going to turn things around for you to create that momentum.
Totally. Yeah, we always welcome those conversations. Okay, guys, wherever you're listening right now, please do us a favor, rate and comment on this episode. Leave a review, leave any feedback. We appreciate that. Share it. Most importantly, share it with a friend. If you know somebody who could benefit from hearing this message, send this podcast to them so that they can learn and listen with us too. Thanks for being here. Have a great day.